I'm Rachel Davis, and I've been working on a 100 Days project, making mosaics inspired by nature. In this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different materials that I've been using in this project. One of the aims when I set out to make these mosaics was that I didn't want to buy anything new. I wanted to use all the materials that I already had. I've got a studio full of materials, things that I haven't got around to using. The size of the mosaics is quite small, so in terms of the amount of materials that I needed for each one, it wasn't a huge amount of materials. But when I started out on the project and I was just going to make these small things, the theory was that they wouldn't take me very long because there wasn't a very big space to fill. But what I found was that I just started cutting my materials smaller. And in a way, I guess it's quite, from like an environmental perspective, it's quite nice to kind of work on that small scale because you're not using as many resources to make something and making the most of the materials that you do have. I used a whole range of materials in these mosaics. The common ones that I use are sort of slate and stone. Lots of different kinds of stone. When I go out hiking or if I see something, I'll pick up a little stone and put it in my pocket. So I've got lots of different bits and pieces. I've got stones that have been given to me by students or by friends from when they've been somewhere, or things that are local to them. So it's quite nice in that respect that I've got a lot of different kinds of stone. So there's different sort of colours and different surfaces that I can use and play about with. Slate's one of my favourite materials to work with. I've got lots of different types of slate, so that features quite heavily in a lot of the mosaics. Glass as well. I don't use loads of glass in my mosaics, but I think it's really nice to include glass. It adds sort of splash of colour, a reflective surface against the sort of duller surfaces of the stone and the slate. And I also started playing about with the glass as well. So not only using cold glass as you buy it, but kind of heating up the glass, pulling it into strands or shaping it to kind of create different pieces as well. Shells were another material that I started using a little bit more of in this project. I've got shells, in my studio, but I don't really use them very often. And it was only when I was kind of doing this project and again looking for pieces that had kind of curves and more organic shapes. There was one image in particular of this turkey tail fungus, and I really liked the image, but I couldn't quite figure out how to create the curves and the layers on that small scale. If I'd have been creating a bigger piece, you can create the flow of using, the curves using lots of pieces, but because it was so small, I kind of needed curved pieces. So yes, I was looking through my materials and found some shells and thought actually these would work really nicely. Layering them up to kind of create lots of different curved pieces and filling in all the little gaps with some smalti as well. So yeah, sort of using some of the curves from those shells. There's a couple of other pieces where I've used kind of bigger bits of shell to kind of create a curved space. There's one where I've actually taken a shell and filled it with lots of little pieces to create sort of a little lichen piece, and stuck those into the mosaic as well. So yeah, using the shells was something that was quite interesting to explore sort of throughout the project as well. One of the materials that I started using near the end of the project was gold smalti. So smalti is a really expensive mosaic material. It's a special kind of glass, and the gold smalti is an even more expensive version of that. It's kind of glass with a bit of gold leaf and then a very thin layer of glass on top. But it shimmers beautifully. It's a really lovely material. And I've got some in my studio, and because it's so special, I haven't actually used it very much at all. It's always kind of kept, for that special project. So I thought, actually, I'm going to start using some little bits of it. And once I started using little bits of it, I really enjoyed working with it. It just, you don't need very much. It's one of those cases of less is more, and just use little bits in it to add kind of a little bit of extra shimmer and sparkle to some of the mosaics. So particularly, I think it was maybe the last 20 mosaics or so, a lot of them feature just like little bits of gold smalti. It comes in different colors, so there's like gold and silver, orange, green, purple. So there's lots of choice in how to fit it in, with the mosaics. And it kind of felt, as I kind of got towards the end, to kind of include these special materials, I was getting to the end of this project. So I think using a whole mix of materials, I've had a whole range of inspiration images to use that kind of driven me to look for different things to kind of represent different things. And it's made me rediscover different materials that had maybe been at the back of my studio, preparing some of those materials and looking at the different colours and shapes, the way the materials are to work with. So it's kind of given me a bit more knowledge about some of the materials that I've got and can then use moving forward in my practice in terms of, knowing what might be good to use in different projects going forward.